Update. Entitled Step Monster Got Herself Banned for My Wedding. Original post. My 28 male, stepmother 49 female is a wannabe party planner. She has taken it upon herself to plan and host every party and holiday my dad's family has thrown since she married him. I never loved those occasions growing up. She's controlling and gets upset if people complain about anything, but I humored her for my dad's sake. According to him, this helps her feel included. I'm getting married to my fiancée Jane, 26 female, in July. We got engaged in early 2021, but Jane ended up getting pregnant a couple months after that, and we decided to postpone the wedding to focus on our son for a while. So we've had a long engagement. My stepmother has tried to hijack our wedding plans from day one, complaining, contacting our planner, showing up unannounced to Jane's dress appointments, etc., and we have repeatedly asked her to stop. Dad wants us to humor her, but she's clearly resentful of the fact that she's not hosting the wedding or being labeled mother of the groom in invitations. Besides our baby boy, we also have Luke, 4 male, Jane's paternal half-brother. She got custody of him a few months into our relationship after his parents died. I ended up moving in with them during the pandemic, and I have been in Luke's life since he was a baby. He doesn't call me dad and refers to us as a sister and his OP, but we love him like a son. Stepmother, though, hates Luke. She accuses Jane of baby-trapping her way into the family, and that accusation only got worse after our son was born. My dad gets along with Jane and adores the kids, but stepmother demands him to refuse babysitting Luke. So we don't leave the kids with them often. Instead, Jane's brother and sister-in-law usually watch the kids for us, as their children are close to ours in age. We had a thing last Sunday, and my brother-in-law was out of town with his family. Jane's other siblings live in different cities, as well as my mom and sister. My dad agreed to babysit at our place, and we left. We came back to find both kids crying, stepmother screaming, and dad weakly trying to calm everyone down. Apparently, Luke had told stepmother that both he and our son were going to be our ring bearers, and she went ballistic. She screamed that she wasn't going to allow that, because he wasn't family. She then hit him when he started crying, and his lip is still split. She'd never gotten to this point before. We immediately banned her from our house and from our wedding. Dad is fuming and has said he's not going without her. He's also convinced half of his side of the family by severely downplaying what stepmother did to boycott the wedding as well. This includes my stepbrother, who fully agrees with his mother no matter how many times I try to tell him the truth. Me and Jane are refusing to budge, but many of my cousins who aren't coming anymore are asking us to reconsider. Pretty much all of Jane's family agrees with us. But one of her aunts suggested that maybe stepmother is acting out because she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. I've honestly had it with my family enabling her behavior. I love my dad and really want him at my wedding, but I am more than willing to go no contact if it means protecting my family. Edit: I think I accidentally deleted a paragraph where I mentioned this, but we did press charges. We took Luke to the pediatrician the next day and gathered every piece of evidence we had. Not only did we have pictures of Luke's face, but by some miraculously strike of luck, we also had nanny cam footage. Some commenters were right to assume that my stepmother hadn't been invited to our house, but my dad hasn't really gone anywhere without her in years, so we took precautions. We didn't expect her to actually do anything this awful, but we've never trusted her with the kids. The physical attack happened off camera, but there is some footage of her screaming and Luke crying before and after the event. She now has a child mistreatment charge on her rap sheet. We wouldn't let her get away with this. I'll try to respond to at least some of the comments, but all I'll add for now is that Luke is okay. The visit to the pediatrician happened the day after. He already had a counselor and will continue treatment. We've been hugging and pampering him a little more than usual too. He's still upset, but is already doing much better. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. That is scorched earth level event. You could have pressed charges. Don't look back. Sorry about your dad, but he's literally enabling your kid's attacker. Any flying monkeys come your way, just reply with, since you apparently condone the verbal and physical harming of a 4-year-old child, trust us when we say you will not be missed at our wedding. This is the answer. Nothing short of scorched earth, father included. Defending this behavior is abhorrent. She would have gotten much worse than banned from the wedding if I came home to find my kid literally bleeding because of her striking him. I wouldn't budge on this. She's not acting out because she doesn't feel included. She's a narcissistic a-hole throwing tantrums because she doesn't get what she wants. I wouldn't blame you going totally no contact either. Your cousins asking you to reconsider are totally out of line. All I can think is, can your fiancé fight? Because I most definitely would have chosen violence that day. She's disgusting, and Opie's dad is indeed a coward. Imagine the fear that baby felt being screamed at about not being family, and physically attacked, all for being excited on top of him having lost his parents already. I don't think I would have been able to control myself. Wow, just wow. Opie, these people are not safe people or good people. You and your family are better off. Jane can fight very well actually. She's done jujitsu, but got busy tending to Luke. I can also fight, and was more than ready to, but neither of us wanted the kids to see us like that. Pretty much every adult in the house was screaming for a few minutes, and we didn't want to get it any scarier. Jane also threatened to call the cops, which prompted dad and stepmother to leave. Your dad needs to grow a spine. How in the hell can he stand by and watch his wife harm a literal child? It honestly says more about him than her. Cut your losses on anyone siding with this nonsense. She clearly attacked Luke. Are charges being pressed? Because truly deserves punishment for her actions. Something far more eye-opening than being disinvited from your wedding. He stands by his witchy wife because she's the one he's sleeping with. He's afraid he will be cut off. And she will leave him eventually. Cowards die alone. Now for the update. I want to thank everybody who took the time to read and or comment on my previous post. It's been a tough week, but it's always great to know that people care. I haven't been able to reply to every comment, but I will try to address some in this update. This might get a little long. I'll start off by saying that me and Jane are going no contact with my dad and stepmother. We haven't really spoken to either of them since the incident, and I don't plan on being the one to reach out. Any communication between us is being handled by my younger sister. She's completely on our side, but will remain in low contact for the time being. I've decided to adopt Jane's way of dealing with people she cares about. Forgive what's apologized for, but never forget. Basically, if dad or stepmom ever truly understand what they did wrong and sincerely apologize, we're willing to forgive them even if begrudgingly so. But we will never ignore or let them forget what they did to our family. And for the time being, neither of them will be allowed near Luke, our baby, and any other kids we may have in the future, even if we do forgive them. As for the rest of my family, I read a lot of comments suggesting that I post pictures of Luke's face, as well as the nanny cam footage. I'm not very active in social media, but even if I was, I'm not comfortable exposing my injured preschooler like that, especially given that nothing on the internet ever truly goes away. I also decided not to share the pictures with my family unless truly necessary. I should probably mention that while my family adores my dad, most of them aren't very fond of stepmother. She had 2 failed marriages prior to meeting my father, the first of which resulted in my stepbrother, and he cheated on his then-girlfriend to be with her. My family loved that girlfriend and disliked stepmother right away. Not only has she been controlling and manipulative since the beginning, she's also tried to force her way into the family matriarch role by any means possible. Taking over planning duties for every family event was her favorite way to do it, because of all the attention and compliments that come with it. The main reason why I hated these parties growing up was because she'd always find a way to make everything about her, including Christmas and mine and my sister's birthdays. The rest of the family felt neutral about it, but they never liked her. With Luke, it was different. Most of my relatives didn't meet him until COVID restrictions got looser, and by then he was 2 years old. He's a bright and genuinely lovable kid, and there weren't really any other small children in the family, so everyone immediately started cooing over him. The way I see it, stepmother got upset that Jane and Luke were accepted by my family so easily compared to her experience, and that's why she resents them both, but I can't confirm that. She was also mad that, aside from not being the planner, she would have absolutely no involvement in the wedding party. She tried to pressure us into letting her officiate, even if one of Jane's best friends was offered that role a year ago. Making stepbrother my best man though he wasn't interested, and I'd already gotten my best friend. Or asking her sister's daughter to be our flower girl, when we'd promised Jane's 3-year-old niece. Also, her sister's daughter is 15 and doesn't know us. She also tried to convince us to let my dad walk Jane down the aisle since her father's gone, but her eldest brother, the brother-in-law I mentioned in the first post, had already been enlisted. Stepmother was disappointed that my family wasn't as involved in the wedding as Jane's, and kept making comments about how that would never happen if we put her in charge. All of that being said, there is nothing that can excuse being that awful to a child, especially if it really is the petty jealousy that I suspect. Because I haven't spoken with my father, my sister has been keeping me updated on what he's been up to. As I found out through her, the story my dad and stepmother told the rest of the family completely erases Luke's injury and the abuse charges. It insinuates that me and Jane banned them because we got annoyed with stepmother and decided to take it out on my dad as well. Because most people already disliked stepmother, explaining what actually happened that night wasn't hard, and most of the relatives that I actually wanted at the wedding have apologized and are berating my dad as well. The people that didn't believe us, as well as those saying we overreacted, have been told they are not welcome in our home anymore. Those are mostly people from my dad's generation, so I can't say I'm surprised. But the realization that they are so biased that they're willing to protect a woman they hate after she hurts a child just to make my dad happy has assured me that I don't need any of them in my life. Stepbrother is still in denial. He refuses to believe his mother could hurt a child, even with all the evidence we have. I have to admit, I understand. I love my mom too, but that doesn't mean I'd excuse his obliviousness. So, he's banned too. It sucks, because we were close growing up, but I don't regret it. Besides, Jane has 3 other siblings besides Luke, the older brother-in-law, a twin brother, and a younger sister, and I'm closer to them than I ever was to him. Speaking of Jane's family, they're all furious over what happened and have been extremely supportive of us. Jane's maternal family basically adopted Luke after she got custody of him and have frequently called to make sure he's okay. We did manage to save some money with everybody we uninvited and have decided to use it to help Jane's cousin. She lives in a different country and was previously unable to come to the wedding, so we're paying for a plane ticket. Luke has gotten much better and is almost completely back to being the sunny child he's always been. The split lip was shallow. It's healing slowly but didn't require any stitches. We sat him down a few days ago and explained that my dad and stepmonster wouldn't be around anymore. He really liked my dad, but understands that he and stepmother are attached at the hip. He's clearly scared of her, but we're doing our best to make him feel safe. Me and Jane have reassured him that he is family. We love him and no one will ever change that. I'm not too worried about dad or stepmother trying to show up at the wedding, but we've alerted the venue and given them pictures just in case they try anything. Better safe than sorry. Some people brought attention to the fact that stepmother was a hypocrite for saying Luke isn't family, and I agree for obvious reasons. Her main excuse for pretty much everything she does is that she doesn't feel like my family welcomes her. Dad has been guilting me to take part in everything she plans by reminding us for that as long as I can remember. The way he continues to make excuses for her without realizing this is basically a case of the pot calling the kettle black, except Luke actually is family, is what has made me accept that while I will always love my dad, it's not healthy or safe for me and my family to be around him anymore. It hurts to know my son won't have his only remaining bio-grandfather in his life, but he has 2 amazing step-grandpas to make up for it. For now, I'm sad but satisfied with how things have turned out. I don't like complaining about my life. It's a mess, but a beautiful one. I love my fiancé, I love my kids, and I'm lucky enough to love my job. We're happy, and I'm not letting anyone ruin that. I hope this is my last update on the story, but I'll keep you posted. Again, thank you for all your love and support. Best wishes to all of you. It never ceases to amaze me how disgusting people like Opie's dad and stepmother can be, for absolutely no logical reason. So much stress and drama with no payout. A peaceful life is worth so much more in my opinion. But keeping the entitled child-harming stepmother happy is keeping the peace in their mind. So the father watched her attack a small child, and he's just okay with that? Growing up and realizing that people you love never deserved it sucks. Good for Opie and Jane for standing up for their family and keeping everyone safe. Some people are so afraid of being alone after a certain age that they'll put up with anything. Dude cheated on his current girlfriend to be with his monster. He deserves it, to be honest. Was probably never a good role model anyway. This includes my stepbrother, who fully agrees with his mother no matter how many times I try to tell him the truth. Showing the evidence is not going to sway this. There is no watered-down version that still isn't child mistreatment, and they will defend this. PSA, raise your sons to be self-reliant, so they don't marry someone this evil because you didn't raise them to learn how to heat up a freezer waffles. Now for the last story. Girlfriend 27 female asked me 26 male a hypothetical about spending money and has raised red flags for me. So I 26 male have been with my girlfriend 27 female for a year and a half now. The other day we were playing Stardew Valley, and everything was going well. We share money in the game, and she randomly asked, "What would you do if I spent all our money right now?" Being just a game, I said, "Go right ahead." And she asked, "Well, what would you do if I did that in real life?" I asked her to expand on that, and she phrased the question like this. She said, "If we were married, what would you do if I spent all of our money down to $0 on something for the both of us without consulting you first?" I was honest and told her I would probably divorce her, to which she was shocked. She asked if I'd even talked to her about it or tried to reason with her first, and I told her if she would make a massive decision on something that would affect both of us like that, that's not someone I would want to be with. She obviously didn't like that answer, and it's kind of been left how it is. Obviously, this was a hypothetical, but it's honestly kind of raising red flags for me. We don't share any accounts right now, but we have different views on how we see finances. I want to bring it up to her again, but I could use some advice on how to go about that, or on what else I could dive into, because this honestly kind of worries me. Now for the top advice. This is stupid, and she's too old to be playing these childish games. If she's mad, let her be, and tell her you're ready to have an adult conversation when she's ready. If you two were married and she made a unilateral decision to spend all of your money on anything without consulting you, that's a major issue. I don't know if it's divorce-worthy, but I would certainly have completely separate finances after that. Being married takes maturity, and there's nothing mature about blowing all the money, no matter what it's for, without it being a joint decision. You're right to consider this a red flag. I've always hated hypotheticals for this reason. My ex would do them too, and if I didn't answer how she wanted, it would turn into an argument. Yes, to me it seems like a no-brainer that spending all of your money to $0 is something that you wouldn't want to avoid, but I feel she values money differently than I do. She likes to spend, and I like to save. Hypothetical questions regarding finances are actually a good way to gauge if you are on the same page and can help you have adult conversations about what future finances look like. Having hypothetical questions about what would your lives look like if one of you lost your job, and how you would manage, and how would it change your day-to-day spending, where would you cut back, what are things you wouldn't want to compromise on, and where would you both agree to cut the fat. She pretty much told you her values about finances is never going to change. We don't share any accounts right now, but we have different views on how we see finances. Move on. People need to stop fitting square pegs into round holes. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my wife and her friend anymore over what my wife calls a miscommunication? My wife Emily has a longtime friend Leslie who has recently become a single mother. Leslie does not have a working vehicle at the moment and is working 2 jobs. So Emily took it upon herself to help Leslie out as much as she can. Emily had started asking me to help as well in driving Leslie and her kids around. Taking them to school/appointments, taking Leslie to the grocery store, etc. whenever Emily or someone else couldn't. I agreed, since it made my wife happy, and I understand the kind of situation Leslie is in. But helping has turned into Emily inviting Leslie and her kids over often, or organizing trips that they would like, such as camping or fishing. A few times my wife was unable to attend these get-togethers she organized due to work, and insisted they still take place, leaving me to entertain Leslie and her kids on my own. And since I've known of Leslie my entire relationship with my wife, I didn't think too much about this. The times that it has been me left with her, or sent in Emily's stead to shuttle Leslie around, have made normal small talk with her and her kids. Recently, Leslie's kids were going to be away for a weekend, so Emily wanted to have Leslie over for dinner and some movies. She asked me to text Leslie to ask her over, and when I did, Leslie replied with, "Just as friends, right? I'm not interested in being anyone's girlfriend." I thought that response was out of left field, so I asked her why I should even say that. And her response was pretty much, "No guy would be asking me and my kids how we're doing or helping me out unless he wanted something in return." I told Leslie it wasn't anything like that, and then showed my wife the conversation, and informed her I would be stepping back from helping her with anything involving Leslie, and to leave me out of any future plans. I also offered to show her the rest of my phone and anything else. Emily believed me, but she still talked to Leslie about it to see what had given her that impression, and accordingly, she gave Emily the same answer. A few days later, Leslie apologized to Emily and told her that her emotions and mind were just all over because of a down day. That's fine, but I'm still not willing to help her or my wife out anymore as I had been, because I don't want any repeats or accusations hurled at me when I was just helping as my wife asked. Emily thinks I'm overreacting and should just brush it off, because it was just a silly miscommunication she had on a bad day. Am I the a-hole? Additional info. The text I sent Leslie about the night was, Emily wants to know if you'd like to come over for dinner and some movies on Saturday. That's why her response was so out of left field. I sent the text because Emily was busy on her phone and wanted to know ASAP so we could make our weekend plans. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Cringe friend. Could have gone a lot worse. Do not help her unless your wife is around. Ew, Leslie. Her mentality that men and women can't be friends without ulterior motive is disgustingly gross on its own, much less about the husband of her friend who had been helping her out. Not the a-hole. I noticed she didn't apologize to you. She accused you of trying to cheat on your wife. That is no small thing to overlook. Yes, this is huge. Not only did she imply that you would cheat on your wife, she straight up said in writing that you were courting her for more. Hell no. What if your wife didn't believe you that you weren't cheating and sending her those signals? That kind of thing can destroy your relationship. Nope, 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 nope. What happens if Leslie gets mad or has another down day and tells your wife you were inappropriate towards her? Nope, not the a-hole. I'd put a hard line in the sand on this. Edited to add, if I were your wife in this situation, I'd be the one shutting it down. Leslie could be unhinged. You don't know. You do know she's been accepting your help, fully believing that you wanted something in return. Nope. It only takes one accusation to ruin a man's life. Since this isn't your direct friend, stay away, just in case. Not the a-hole. Be safe. Justice doesn't care what sex you are. Buffalo Bills former punter is living through that right now. After watching that guy get dragged through the dirt all last year, that whole story is so gross and his life was ruined by an evil person. This type of nonsense is why many men won't coach kids' sports teams anymore. Too easy for someone to misinterpret their intentions. It's also why you'll rarely see men teach elementary. They can be completely above board, but still the rumor mill starts turning. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my grieving ex-mother-in-law not to move closer to her own granddaughter? My 40s female ex 40s male left our daughter Zoe and I very abruptly 6 years ago and moved from the US to another country with his affair partner. His mom, my mother-in-law, was initially sympathetic, but when the affair partner got pregnant, she moved to their country to be closer to her grandchild. He and affair partner later got married and had another baby. It did felt like a betrayal at a time from Zoe's point of view. She lost her dad as well as her grandma. She would visit her dad on some school breaks and part of summer and see her grandma there. And we'd keep in contact via FaceTime, but it wasn't the same. However, by that point, I was marrying my second husband whose family adores Zoe, so that softened the blow, and we also moved to a different state. My ex passed away in 2021, which was devastating for all of us. Initially, mother-in-law stayed on to support her young grandsons and my ex's poor grieving wife. But without my ex there are some immigration/visa issues, so she's choosing to move back to the US. She called me and said that she had decided to move to our state to be closer to Zoe, who is now 12. She has no other connections here. I said we'll be happy to invite you to birthdays and maybe get together for Christmas Eve, but that our family is busy these days. And Zoe's about to enter her teenage years, so she should take that into account. She started talking about wanting to spend a lot more one-on-one time with my daughter. I said frankly that she had lost the right to demand one-on-one access years ago, and she should bear in mind that Zoe was ambivalent at best about her, and with her entering her teen years, that's probably wasn't going to change. Mother-in-law said she was grieving, and this was her late son's old daughter in her blood. I said she had all but abandoned Zoe, just as her son had, and she couldn't expect to just pick up where she'd left off. and that Zoe now had step-grandparents who played a part in her life that mother-in-law had effectively left vacant. I said she could move where she wanted, that was her choice, but don't count on this relationship. She was very upset and accused me of trying to erase her Zoe's father and paternal family to make room for a stepfather/stepfamily, and has said that I'm alienating her Zoe against her. For example, she's upset that I told Zoe in passing that she was having visa issues months ago because it interferes with her "I'm coming back just for you" narrative. And the truth is that I've always made sure Zoe's nice/civil. But even before my ex died, I haven't done much to encourage Zoe to deepen the relationship with her grandma. It was hard for her to visit her dad and see mother-in-law being her half-sibling's grandma. She also has complex feelings toward her half-siblings and stepmom. She knows mother-in-law is moving back, but I didn't tell her that mother-in-law wants to move here yet. As a parent, I don't know if it would be healthy for her, especially since I don't think mother-in-law can be trusted to stick around if she gets a better offer. But maybe it wasn't my place to tell her not to move. Not a-hole. Zoe's not an accessory that can be shoved to the back of the drawer and then pulled back out when grandma wants. Had ex-mother-in-law's son not died, she would never have contemplated moving back nor making any real effort to be closer to Zoe. Zoe is not her consolation prize now that her son has died, and visa issues mean she can't stay with a second family. Exactly what I was going to say, that if the ex hadn't died, then the mother-in-law wouldn't have made any effort to get close to Zoe, probably ever. I totally understand wanting to be close to what you have left of your son, but it doesn't mean you get a pass. Not the a-hole. You told her she could do what she wanted, but not to count on Zoe's mandatory attention. That's just setting a healthy expectation for 18, who might feel abandoned by her grandma. You could have said it more gently, but you have every reason to feel heated on your daughter's behalf too. At the end of the day, you're just setting expectations so mother-in-law can make the right decision for herself. Exactly. Grandma might not want to hear the kid's been hurt and still has some feelings about it all, but the alternative, meaning not telling her and letting her find out after the move, would do more damage. Letting her daughter know about the visa issues and protecting her from that emotional manipulation of "I moved back because I missed you" was right too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's an awful mom for using her savings to help her boyfriend? Before going to college, I asked my mom to help with tuition, and I'd find my own way for accommodation and general money. She said no, and that I should just work harder. Fine. So I got 2 jobs and managed to earn a scholarship in my second year. For my graduation, I had to pay for my own party because she said she wouldn't. When I got offered a job across the country, I asked her to assist me with just the first month's rent and I'd pay her back when I got paid. She said she couldn't, and I had to let the job go despite it literally being a golden turkey given to me on a silver plate. But whatever, I managed to get another job closer after 6 months of unemployment. All this time, she had a savings account with money she'd been saving and what my late stepdad left her. There's a lot of money in there, and it wouldn't have rendered her destitute to have helped me in at least one of these occasions. But it's her money, and I'm really not an entitled kid, which is why I never brought it up even though I've always known about the account and always let go after she said no. She used to say it's for her retirement, and I completely respected that. Now, she's been dating Dave for about 5 years, and recently Dave got into trouble with the law and needed bail money. A lot of money. 6 figures. And my mom paid it. Not only that, but she's going to pay for his lawyer too, all from the savings account. When I heard this, I got upset because what in the flying duck? She didn't even consider helping me out, but didn't waste a second hopping to the bank for her troublesome boyfriend? So I told her she was a crappy mom and unsupportive. Then we had a back and forth where she called me ungrateful and entitled. So am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You called it like it is. Like you said, you're not entitled to it. However, it doesn't make her any less of an a-hole for her choices. Exactly correct. The mom is a crappy mom. She wasn't willing to help her daughter's schooling or housing, and thus made her life hella difficult, but is willing to help her boyfriend deal with legal problems. And has the nerve to tell Opie she's ungrateful? Ungrateful for what? That you did a frigging bare minimum that's mandated by law? Get out of here. Not the a-hole. And frankly, I'd go low or no contact with the mom over this betrayal. OP was shown she is not, nor ever was, a priority for her mom. Why stick around when you aren't valued? I'll never understand parents like this. I couldn't imagine putting a love interest over my kid this way. Not the a-hole. It's going to be glorious when you can tell her I told you so smugly, when she realizes she wasted all her money on that flea bag. Even more so down the road when she inevitably comes to you with her handout. Tell her she should have just worked harder and she'll need to get a job if she needs money that badly. Not the a-hole. I firmly believe that when you have a child, you are financially tied to that person for life, not just until they turn 18. It would be one thing if your mom was actually saving that money for retirement, but she's made it that clear she wasn't. She was saving it for some deadbeat loser who allegedly did something so awful his bail was into 6 figures. You're not entitled for asking for help from your mom. Your mom is the a-hole for repeatedly refusing to help her child with very reasonable expenses, and then turning around and throwing it away for some guy. Might be time to distance yourself from this person who has failed you time and time again, and clearly does not have your best interest at heart. You'll probably hear from her again when she needs money for a nursing home, and then it'll be your turn to tell her she should have worked harder, and that she sounds entitled. No, you are not the a-hole. Your mother is a huge one, though. I totally understand saving for retirement. That makes sense. Spending money on a deadbeat boyfriend for his bail and attorney? No, that's what makes her a huge a-hole. OP, you sound smart and capable. Your mother has issues apparently by putting her terrible boyfriend ahead of her daughter's education. I'm speechless. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to feed my sister-in-law after she gave her food to her dogs? My husband and I threw a barbecue on Saturday for the whole family. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, 2 sister-in-laws, 4 brother-in-laws, all their kids, my parents, and a few cousins. It was a large gathering. Both sister-in-law and brother-in-law brought their dogs, 3 total. I didn't really want the dogs here, but at the same time, I kind of just sucked it up because we were going to be outdoors anyways. Sister-in-law's dogs are extremely high energy and food-driven. One's a giant Rottie, and the other is some sort of Russian Chihuahua. I think that's what she said. So a small lap dog. Brother-in-law's dog is fine. Black Labrador. He is old and just kind of lays around looking for pettings. So we start dishing out plates or whatever, and my sister-in-law is just waiting and staring at us but not saying anything. When we get everyone's food, she goes, where's their food? And points down at her 2 dogs who were standing by the grill begging. I told her that I'm not feeding her dogs food that cost me over $300. I purchased this food on my dime, and I'm not going to see it go to a dog when other people could want more food. She said something to the effect of, well, what the hell are they supposed to eat then? They eat with us for every meal, and now they're just going to be sitting here thinking they did something wrong because you won't feed them. So I responded with all due respect, that is not my problem. You should have figured something out instead of expecting us to feed your dog steaks and burgers. Anyways, she ended up putting her food on the ground for her dogs and sat with her arms crossed the whole time, glaring at everyone around her while they were eating, saying, that sure looks yummy. Good thing the rest of the family gets to eat. My husband kept coming up and saying, just gave her a plate, hun. She's causing drama. But I refused. She gave her plate to her dogs, who shouldn't have been fed the food I purchased anyhow, because I clearly said no already. And I'm not going to give in to the entitlement when she didn't do anything to contribute. If I allowed her to walk all over us this time, then it would happen over and over in the future. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are on my side, as apparently she pulls the same nonsense at their house. But everyone else thinks I'm an a-hole for not feeding her after she gave her plate to her dogs. Not a-hole. If you ever have a barbecue again, please have some dog kibble on hand, so that after she gives her dogs your nice barbecue, you can pour her a bowl of kibble and tell her to eat up. This is the best piece of advice I have ever read on Reddit. LMAO. Good job, sir. Not a-hole. This does sound like entitlement. Actually, it just about screams entitlement. You and your family should do that every time sister-in-law pulls this crap. Did brother-in-law manage his dog's food? If so, sister-in-law could really learn a thing or two from him. Jeez. Yep, brother-in-law brought his dog a can of wet food to eat while everyone else was eating. Good on brother-in-law for being responsible. I literally do not understand why sister-in-law isn't embarrassed. Narcissists don't get embarrassed. Not a-hole. This is truly unhinged. She's not even good to her dogs, as this is very unhealthy for them. This, you cannot feed your dogs whatever human food is being served. Not a-hole. Exactly. And if the dogs are used to being fed at the same time, feed them their dog food. It's what I do. Before I sit down to eat, I just feed my dog his food. And if I have any veggies or meat, he can have it. Goes into his bowl after I eat. Dogs can get all sorts of issues from eating seasoned meats.